shot. John at TLD today shot a fantastic 4K video sample with the GS5, and I'll post that in the description below. But at the end of the video, I will demonstrate the full 1080p experience because I did shoot this video with 1080p. Now under recording mode, you have things like slow motion, fast motion, and smooth motion options there as well. Video stabilization, which is off by default. This uses software for stabilization, not optical image stabilization, which is not included in here. You also have audio zooming, so you can enable this or turn it off. Basically, it will increase the sensitivity of the microphone the closer you get to a subject when you zoom in. Now there's another unique feature here called Remote Viewfinder, which will coach you through the process of setting this up. I actually use NFC technology to enable this feature on the GS4. So basically what's happening now is the GS4 is seeing the screen of the GS5. So I can now take my GS5, place it anywhere, so I can place it in a window, and I can use the GS4 to control it. So let me go ahead and demonstrate that. All right, so there you go. It's in my window. I can tap to focus. I can see my neighbors driving by. I can record video, snap a photograph. I can even change the settings. So all those controls are right here on a remote viewfinder. Now, in terms of camera performance, this definitely is one of the best cameras I've used to date with very sharp, high-resolution images, and you can get pretty close. So this, for example, this flower was really close to the camera. I was able to really get close here to see all the details. I mean, I can really dig down here. So that resolution definitely comes in handy, and the quality of the images is superb. So you see a lot of detail here, and it's sharp, and the focus is sharp. It has no problem finding the right focus point. And I didn't have to do much here. I just took the photo, allowed it to find the focus point, and it did a really nice job. So definitely one of the best cameras I've used, especially on an Android device. Now in terms of low light performance, this camera is also really impressive. I think the only real problem I have with it is that it's pretty slow to focus. So it has a harder time focusing in low light conditions. As you can see, it does a pretty nice job. It's not too overexposed and grainy, so it's just about right. Now I think the biggest weakness with this camera is the LED flash. So for example, I took these shots at nighttime, and then I took some shots with the LED flash. So as you can see, it does a nice job illuminating the scene, but the flash is really unnatural. It's got this blue washed out light. Definitely doesn't look good. It kind of clashes with the light in the scene, and so it doesn't look natural at all. Cameras with dual LED flashes that have two different colors are able to create a much more natural looking light that adapts to the scene. In the Samsung's case, it's just a bright blue light. You can see with this violet here, it actually looks okay, not too bad. But again, with the scenes with more complex lighting conditions, it's definitely not as good. Now the GS5 has definitely improved upon the GS4's display. It's much brighter, the whites are more clearer. You still have that cool color temperature of the OLED display, but it's not quite as saturated. It's a little more color accurate. It seems to be almost brighter than the LCD display on the HTC One M8. So the OLED displays are getting up there in terms of their brightness. This is about 440 nits. Now something like the iPhone, but not as well on the multi-core. And compare it to that of the HTC One M8. GS5 as I see it. So we have this beautiful 5.1-inch Super AMOLED display, which is one of the best OLED displays Samsung has put out. It's bright and vivid. It's right up there with other high-end LCD screens while retaining that nice deep contrast, those deep blacks that come with OLED. So a bright display that looks great outdoors, more accurate color reproduction, certainly a big improvement over the GS4, and it's really the first time I've been really enthusiastic about an OLED display. We also get traditional Android keys, so I'm really glad to see a recent apps button as opposed to a menu button, because I'm always using that to get to the recent apps, and before it was a slow process. You had to use the slow press of one of the other buttons to bring it up. You also have really useful software features for me, such as S-Finder. S-Finder used to be kind of hidden, but now it's right on the surface here, so you can quickly search the device for apps and that sort of thing right from the drop-down menu. And we have Google Now integration right on the home screen. So we could say, okay, Google, set an appointment for tomorrow at 8 o'clock to get this review done.
Touch to continue.
So the experience is actually somewhat similar to the Nexus 5, so it's nice to see that finally integrated. IP67 certification, which means this phone is pretty life-proof. You don't have to worry about water or dust destroying this phone, so it's really nice to have it without having an ugly phone like, say, the Galaxy S4 Active, which had physical buttons that didn't look as slick as the standard GS4. And we also have pretty decent performance for a TouchWiz device. It's not as quick and slick as something like a Nexus 5 device, but it's definitely an improvement over the GS4. So overall, I'm pretty impressed here, and I definitely like the changes to the user interface, which is now much cleaner, especially the settings panel, which integrates search, which I find very useful. We also have that excellent 16 megapixel camera, which can deliver sharp and predictable results under any conditions with pretty sharp focus and quick focus with lots of features that actually work. We also have 4K video recording, which is really nice to have around. We also have the heart rate monitor, which works really well. I actually find it very useful. And all this comes in a lightweight, compact and thin form factor. So although this phone is pretty large at 5.1 inches, it feels very comfortable to handle. I can reach across the display without reaching too far or without loosening my grip on the phone. So it seems to be about the perfect size, the perfect weight, and the perfect thinness. Now when it comes to the cons of this device, it really comes down to audio and build and construction quality. Now with audio, I don't really like the earpiece. It's kind of muffled, it's not very clear sounding, and it's a little quieter than I'd like to see. Certainly something like the HTC One M8 has a really loud earpiece, which is really clear. Audio is also very poor on this device with that single mono speaker on the back. Definitely one of the worst sounding phones, and it fires toward the back. So I'm really disappointed with the audio quality of this phone, and I definitely think Samsung has to improve this. But of course, the speaker is waterproof, unlike the other high-end speakers, so that adds to the IP67 certification. Same with the earpiece here. So maybe that does come with some sacrifice, that waterproof technology, but definitely audio is an issue here. But if you want good audio, just connect your headphones because the headphone amp is pretty good. Now the other con here is design and materials. While I think the device is well made, it's well put together, it's rigid and solid, doesn't creak or anything like that. But unfortunately, plastics in a world where high-end phones are made out of glass and metal feel a little low end and also feel a little too familiar. This is a very familiar experience from Samsung devices. It doesn't feel as exciting and exotic as something like the all-metal HTC One M8 or the all-glass Sony Xperia Z2. But for me, that comes with some benefits. It's thin and lightweight, fairly durable. It's more real-world resistant to drops and that sort of thing. So I feel a little more comfortable using this device as opposed to something that's made out of glass and metal. And of course, the back panel pops off really easily, so you can quickly change out the battery, change your SIM, and add your micro SD card slot, all without adding doors and that sort of thing on the device. Now, for the record, I'm not a big fan of the My Magazine feature, mostly because I'm disappointed that it doesn't work as well as the feature on their tablets, which have interactive live tiles. These basically just feed the top story, and you have to tap on it to get to it. You can't actually interact, you can't swipe in the tile or anything like that, so I find it less useful. And something like Blink Feed on the HTC One M8 is a lot more powerful and a lot more interactive, so this is probably a feature I would just turn off.